Welcome to Rising Together, Local Women Leading Differently, a podcast where we celebrate women, share resources, and tell the real stories of what it takes to lead and build differently. Here we believe visibility is power, collaboration is the antidote to competition, and vulnerability is the birthplace of trust. I'm Emma Malvani, a women's empowerment mentor, creating spaces for women to deepen their intuition, self-trust, and confidence in life and business. I'm honored to be your host and share these conversations with you. Welcome back to the Rising Together podcast. I'm really excited to share today's conversation with you because it genuinely shifted something for me in the midst of a very high stress season. So whether you're in your own squeezy season now or not, I think it will provide some powerful reframes for you too. My guest today is a workflows and planning expert whose approach is truly unique because yes, we talk about systems and organization, but really this episode is about peace and presence. It's about what becomes possible when you stop holding everything in your head and start building simple structures that actually support your real life. We get into the mental load that so many women and parents carry, why compassion is actually the secret ingredient in sustainable planning, and how a simple notebook and a shift in perspective can genuinely change the way that you show up for your work, your family, and yourself. I could not stop nodding along during this entire episode, so I hope you love it as much as I did. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Rising Together podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this.
Oh, good. I'm glad because something that I really love about your work and why I'm so excited for this conversation. So not only I geek out major on organization, like don't go into my like planners and like binder bin. But I love your perspective goes beyond just like productivity and systems for the sake of productivity and systems, right? That like conditioning that we have to just like go and be productive. You have really a lens that looks at the why behind all of this.
So I really believe that having planning systems in place and things written down and documented reduces the stress and the overwhelm that come with our full lives and that especially as women that we lead. And so they make me feel calm and present. And I don't think we talk about planning and presence enough.
Mhm.
And so that's what I try to work with people on. And it's given me so much joy and allowed me to be present in my life that that's really my why.
Mhm.
And I want everybody to feel that way.
Yeah. I love that, especially because when we think about presence and lots of conversations about presence, really call to mind mindfulness practices and meditation. And I love all that. So, like, not knocking it. But to bring in the piece of like the structures and the things that need to support us to be able to be calm, like it can feel a bit like, oh, I'm leaning into this. Some people say right brain, left brain. I use masculine, feminine, like leaning into this really structured, masculine, maybe potentially in our minds, we think rigid processes feels like antithesis to like calm and grounded, but really it is what's going to support.
I think so. And to be honest with you, I used to be very rigid and I actually have to constantly fight against that rigidity in order to be more calm.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've gotten better at it now that I'm working with women because I can see it in other people. And so it's something that I'm working on, but I've gotten so much better at it.
What's kind of helped you to like use that? Or how did you identify, first of all, that you even wanted to like shift it?
I think it wasn't working for me and it was burning me out.
Mm.
And I think it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Being that rigid, because the thing is that you can plan as much as you want, but things are not going to go the way that you want them all the time.
Right.
And I know you talk a lot about energy and you might not have the energy to do something, and that's okay. Like there's always tomorrow, but I think being more compassionate with myself, has been really, really big. And, I just don't think we're taught to like about compassionate time management, because the thing is, it doesn't work. It's not helping you to be hard on yourself and to be rigid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I don't respond well
Right.
when people try to, when I'm trying to be rigid,
Mhm.
and so it's just kind of like been a natural thing. And I think as I work with people, I see things in them and it makes me recognize things in myself and I learn a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Other people are, I have that same perspective of, people are just mirrors for our own stuff. But I love that line because now I'm going to like put it on a pillow. Compassionate time management. Like, what a shift in perspective. And you said something else that I'm trying to think back to. Oh, the piece about rigidity that like we don't love it if other people impose a lot of rigid structures on ourselves. So it makes sense that, well, we wouldn't love it when we're doing it to ourselves. And kind of that same piece of got that mean kind of like you can't hate yourself or like, things around being self up. You can't hate yourself healthy. I love that. I think I like that better. Yeah. But yes, that like anything coming from that like negative place or forceful place even is not productive or helpful or to your point sustainable. That it's so much more effective when we come at things from compassion.
I don't think I realized that right away. I feel like that's developed over time. And especially as I'm working with so many different types of women, and I feel like there's so much shame around planning and like being organized. It's almost like people who say, you cannot, like, to an organizer, you can't come in my house because I'm so embarrassed. And people feel the same way about their organization and planning systems. It's very interesting to me. And I think, well, why? There are so many things that I am not good at. Like, I'm really good at this, but there are so many things that I'm not good at, and that's okay. You know, that's why I try to be compassionate about it because I think there's so much underneath the surface that I'm starting to really learn about people and their patterns with certain types of people because there's different types of people and they feel different ways, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's making me think of something I said a couple days ago to someone was like, I get really insecure and feel really like not comfortable in my body when I feel like I'm like, having like frazzled mom energy. And I was like, and I feel like it just looks like I don't have anything together and I'm just showing up a hot mess. But it makes me think of that shame of feeling like I'm projecting organized like way and how that can be such a barrier to then seeking help or finding systems that do work for me and leaning into something that because I'm trained in IFS, which is internal family systems, and one of the things that we're trained to do is come at those different parts, thoughts, feelings with compassion and curiosity. And so the curiosity piece unlocks that of like, oh, well, maybe what could I do to make this work better? And who could I seek help to like help me figure this out? That, yeah.
I love that ones of curiosity. I have a friend who's an ADHD coach for women, and she talks about that. Instead of being hard on yourself, look at it with a lens of curiosity. And I think it changes everything. And it's so small that it changes everything.
Yeah.
What's internal family systems? Can you just tell me what that is a little bit more?
Yeah. So I think they now call it a psychotherapeutic model that's been developed over the last 40 years where it takes on the premise that we all have these internal parts that organize and function like a family does. So you have like the internal family. So you might have the anxious part or, these different parts in you that develop from the time you're a child as a way to protect you from something. So you had some experience, this part developed to protect you from it or to help you. They all have a helpful purpose. So they all are, to their best ability, they're all benevolent and there's no bad part. But the piece that I love and that I try and bring for myself, even just on a very deep basis, is the self energy. So self is like who we are, separate from all those parts. And it's when we're embodying, I should say separate from those parts, but it's when we're embodying wholeness. It's who we are when we take away all the layers of expectation. And it's when we're embodying, there's 8 C's, and I'm not going to remember them all, but they're compassion and curiosity and creativity and confidence and connectedness. And so when we're bringing in and welcoming those qualities in, and we have what we call a critical mass self. So if we're feeling more self than we're feeling parts, we can work with those parts and help them to feel soothed and cared for, and they can kind of step back a little bit. So it's a very like root cause approach to dealing with some of those things that are very embedded and very deep, but they can show up in these very like sneaky ways.
Okay,
So
that's unbelievable.
not even pleased to say, but
That's incredible.
no, the IS, which
Wow.
yeah,
It's like
and
I feel like getting to know yourself better is so key to so many things, and that's what I do. When the first thing I do with people that I work with is I get to know them better, because
mm,
that's you're not going to be successful unless you really understand yourself. And I
yeah,
think that that's like kind of like the root cause. That just
mhm,
I love that.
yeah. Without self-awareness, how are you going to change anything?
Right. Right.
Being just aware of the patterns. So what does that look like? What are they usually coming to you with or saying or needing?
Mhm.
And then how do you start that process with them?
So there are different types of people. So some people are actually really, really organized, but they want to level up, or
Ooh,
they might have a system that's working for them, but it's not exactly what they want. So they want to level up, or they could also have too many systems and they need to consolidate. That's an interesting person to work with. I love that. And then there are other people who just have a lot of shame,
mhm,
around being organized. And I think they're looking, I think that everybody overcomplicates planning, and I just don't think it needs to be so complicated. It's simple, it's not easy. So I'm not saying like it's easy, but I think it's very simple, and people, I don't know, I feel like I'm going off tangent, but just
yeah,
one thing that like comes to my mind is that I feel like it's like a muscle. I feel like learning how to plan better is like a muscle, just like going to work out. Like you wouldn't not train for a marathon, right?
mhm,
And so I feel like planning is a lot of trial and error and practice. And people come to me and they don't realize that
mm,
because they've never tried that before, because people don't talk about that.
yeah,
I mean, I'm still learning methods and systems that work for me. I just figured out how to time block.
mhm,
That works for me
yeah,
because everybody's so different, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you have to learn what works for
mhm,
you. And I do this for a living, and I just figured it out.
well, because these can like fluctuate too, right? As far as
Mhm.
like what's actually going to work, like depending on the season of life, if you have little kids, things might be shifting faster,
Yeah.
but you have to be like aware of what's going to work for your life
Mm.
and then your own kind of rhythms of how things fluctuate for you as well.
Mhm.
The thing I love about how you speak about systems and how you just organize everything is that simplification piece, that it does not need to be so complicated. And it's so much more sustainable when we can simplify. So, how do you help people kind of work through that overcomplication?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So the first thing I have them do is take the Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies quiz. And I don't know
Mm,
if you know her at all,
I
but
know her, but I don't know the quiz. I
she's
don't think.
brilliant. Go afterwards. You can go
I
take
will,
it.
yeah.
But it's basically how you respond to inner and outer expectations. So if somebody needs accountability in order to get things done, what I do with them is going to be totally different than what I do with someone who's like me, who is an upholder, who responds really well to inner and outer expectations. So, like, it's easy for me to come up with a plan for myself and follow it, but then another person could need accountability. Okay. And another person might rebel against everything and say, you know what, I'm not going to set up a system because I'm not going to be rigid like that. And so that's what I start off understanding about them if I'm working with them one on one and they've like bought a package with me.
Mhm,
So we talk about that, and I always like to say what's working. So I actually don't clear the
mhm.
decks,
Okay.
because I feel like a lot of people think that things aren't working for them. Like if I had $1 for everybody who said to me, well, I just feel like I should have a digital planning system because that's what everyone's doing. It's like everybody's trying to fit into a mold that might not work for them.
Mm,
And so they're working against themselves. And so
mhm,
I don't clear the decks. Find out, okay, what's working for you and what's not working for you. And then we come up with a plan together, and it's
mhm,
trial and error. So when I work with someone, I say, okay, try this system for 2 weeks, and then we're going to meet again in 2 weeks. Because it's a lot of like, okay, this worked, this didn't work, and
mhm.
everybody's so different. That's why it's personalized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is so key. And I feel like really benefits from, especially like in this space of planning, it really benefits to have somebody doing it with you, to partner with somebody, to have them kind of like also keeping you like paced a little bit. Cause I could imagine, and I know this for myself, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this system. Okay. And I'm bought in, like this is the process I'm going to use. And then like forgetting that piece of like, well, no, like let's test drive it and like see if it really works and like see what pieces, kind of guiding that like exploratory phase of it, rather than getting right into the rigid, okay, this is a system that we're going to run with for the next however long.
Yeah.
So I can see that being a really nice partnership.
It is, and I feel like it's really hard to do it on your own, and it's only been easy for me because this is what I absolutely love doing, and I love learning new things, and so it's easy that comes easy for me. Other things don't come easy for me, but this does, so I wanna help. I wanna I feel like it's such a waste of time to say, "I'm gonna use a digital system," if your brain isn't wired for that, and I want to, like, cut out all of that noise, and I don't wanna waste anyone's time. Like, I don't like when my time is wasted, so I'm like, "I figured this out for myself, so let me help you figure out the things that I figured out and, like, make it simpler for you because it doesn't have to be hard,
Oh my gosh.
you
Yeah.
know?"
Well, and how much like time you were saving people and like
Yeah.
struggle. Like time is one thing, so valuable. But also like that struggle. Like you don't have to keep suffering through some of these things when it's like someone else has the skill set. Like,
Yeah.
let's bring it in and get some help. I love that.
It's hard to get people to realize, though, that there's value in this, and it's like I feel like I'm getting better at describing what I do, but it's so much easier when people are open to this because I feel like a lot of people don't see the value in this. And I did an Instagram reel once and I said something like, if you think you don't have enough time to plan, you don't have enough time not to plan or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like not wording it well,
It makes total sense
but
though. Yeah.
that's what I think. Because you can save so much time and effort and just making your life easier.
Yeah. And flow better.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine, especially
Mhm.
as you're helping parents and like managing the mental load of like all the different schedules, like makes that mental load so much heavier.
Well, it's already so hard being a parent, right? I mean, being a parent I don't think there's anything harder than that.
Mhm.
And so and then put on top of it all the things that we need to think about constantly, not even talking about the pressure that we might feel,
Oh yeah.
but keeping it all together. I just feel like it's already so hard. So why not simplify it for people?
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that part needs to be so complicated. The emotional stuff you have to deal with children and all of that or any situations that might be they might be in, that's hard enough, so like let's take this part and make this easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Cause like the parenting piece is challenging enough. And then like I almost think of it as like a separate role of like house manager, family manager. Like it's this whole other like almost like persona where I'm like CEO of the family of like
Yes.
figuring them all out that it is like you need almost like to approach it from that perspective of managing almost like a business and like running it a little bit that way that like you need those systems um, and processes to take that out of your brain then too, and like be able to like maybe even hand it over to someone else.
I mean, it's such a CEO job of the household. I mean, absolutely. And I think it's really hard. I think it's like the hardest job.
It is just to kind of clarify the benefits of establishing a workflow and organization for, let's take the context of like parenthood.
Hmm.
What are some of the things that people could open their minds up to experiencing when things are
I like to say that I'm never up at 3 o'clock in the morning being stressed out about something I
Mhm.
didn't do or something I don't want to forget to do
Mhm.
because I have systems in place.
I love
I haven't felt that way in a very, very long time, and I think that everybody keeps everything in their head, and this is very prevalent in parenthood, and it's people in their jobs too, right? And I feel like we hold everything in our head, and um, and that's really stressful and exhausting. right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like when you have systems in place, it doesn't have to be rigid, but then you're not up at 3 a.m. stressing out about what, you forgot to do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary. Again, parenthood is so hard.
Yeah.
It's hard enough.
Right.
Did I answer that question?
1000%. And
Okay.
you were like hitting me right in the right season too.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's me, that like I am holding what feels like a million tiny details in my head, so scared that I'm going to forget them. And that's like 95% of my stress right now. And it feels like, because I'm very connected to just my nervous system and everything, that it feels so dysregulating. Right. And it's like, it's changing the way I show up. It's changing the way I feel about myself, that I'm like so constricted as I'm just trying not to forget all these things.
Well, and usually it's one person, right? And I'm not, usually there's a default parent. I mean, it's just the way that a lot of things are. I have to say my husband is very involved, but I think that with a lot of people, the mental load falls on one parent more than another. And it's not always the woman, but oftentimes it is.
That's true. Yeah. That like, cause my husband's super involved too. And I want to acknowledge like he could take over. And there are times where I say like, he's a better stay-at-home parent than I am. But as like business owners too, that like, it's like I'm holding all these pieces of like the parts that are coming in from home and then all the details in a business, wearing all of the hats too. That like, even as I try to delegate or like bring on a team member, getting them up to speed and then remembering all the details and getting them to the point where, okay, I feel like I can really let that go. It forced me to get like, okay, write my SOPs, get my documentation, like start getting that stuff together. And then it almost made me realize, it like opened the floodgates of like how much was in my head. And like that's just the business side. But then parental too, as much as, and again, like my husband's super involved and he knows tons of details, but he's also just like not on every text string. So like there's all these things where like, well, they put all the moms on the Girl Scout one. And so there's all these little details. Like, I don't know, maybe there is some ideal somewhere in the future where this comes to be, but I think there is always going to be that slightly tipped where moms and women are holding more, because that's in our wiring to hold a lot, to care for others, but also just to be that connected to our kids' lives. Like, I think it's just innate.
I agree with you. I really agree with you. Back to keeping it all in our heads. So there's a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Okay.
And he says, I'm going to summarize it for you. And it's, your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. And when you think about, and that's like after I read that book, I feel like a lot of things changed for me. And it's the kind of the basis it's like this, basically what I think about when I think about planning and I think about my business, then that's it.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. That is so great. And it makes me want to ask kind of a lead in back, kind of like a backing up question of how you got into systems in the first place. Yeah. I know a little bit about your background, so I want you to share it.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting, the journey of where you came from and how you ended up teaching systems and workflows.
It's such an interesting, so I have a very interesting background. So my first job out of college was in TV sitcom production. And I feel like everything I learned about being organized and systems was from TV. And I say that they told me what to do, but not how to do it. So I had to figure out my workflow and how to work. And I was sitting at my desk so I was a production assistant, which is kind of like a gopher in my first job. And then my second job, I was a production secretary. So it was a totally different thing. And I had to be very organized. And the assistant accountant walked by me with all of my Post-it notes by my computer. And she said, that's not going to work. And she told me a very simple way of keeping organized, which was a spiral notebook and writing down my to-dos with check boxes. And it's still how I keep organized, and it's very, very efficient. But I remember her telling me that, and I thought, you know what, I have to come up with my own systems. And then I started being able to hire people that worked under me. And so I created all of these job manuals and all of these procedures so that I could hand them off to these people and that they could do the job the way that I wanted them to do it. But there was always collaboration. Like if somebody said this doesn't make sense or whatever, we could talk about it. But it made their job easier and it made my job easier. And so and you had to be, I mean, we would be working on a show at the same time as wrapping the show, working on the wrap party, and then working on 2 pilots all at the same time. So we had to be very efficient and very organized, and it was a lot of work. It was very stressful. And you know, I just feel like I learned so much from that experience. And then when I moved back to Chicago, because I did that in Los Angeles, when I moved back, I started working in the nonprofit world, and we had limited resources, and so again, I had to come up with processes and systems to do things more efficiently. And so yeah, they're 2 different industries, but I feel like I learned similar things in both of them.
Yeah.
That's kind of the background.
There's just like such a through line for you for the development of processes. Well, and I love that with both of those, it's like you had to start from yourself of like what's, you know, here you're given kind of nothing and how do you like figure it out, which is such the feminine way. But like, I love that you had to craft them for you first. And then as you're sharing them, then you can evolve them. But
yeah,
I love that. So has that informed? Let's talk a little bit about the notebooks by Ronna, because I love that. Can you tell us first what it is and then how, I guess, kind of how it flows, what that structure is?
Yeah. So Notebooks with Ronna is a 2-hour workshop that I teach about personal task management. And I developed it when I was a parent of young kids. My kids were 4 and 8 and everything was so chaotic. And I thought I need to have a really simple system for organizing all of my personal household tasks. So the things that we do on a yearly basis, we make our kids' doctor's appointments, we make our doctor's appointments, we plan birthdays, we have the holidays, all these things that happen on a repeatable basis. So it's a workshop that teaches you how to first of all, think of all those things. I give you a brainstorm task list. So with all of all the things that you could do in your household in categories, and a lot won't apply to you because like the college kids section obviously wouldn't apply to you, but I give it all to you so you don't have to think about it. We basically look at those and we think about our lives and how, I know that you talk a lot about energy. And so we talk about certain times of the year that are busier than others. And so think of all the things that we need to do and how to plan, organize, and pace them, which I think a lot of people don't think about, because everything doesn't need to get done today. But I think that's always been my biggest problem, and I'm getting better at it all the time. And I feel like now I really get it, but I think it's hard to get there because everything seems important. So it's just basically a 2-hour workshop where you actually do the work in the workshop and you look at your life, you look at the different months of the year, and you plan and organize and pace all your personal tasks. And then that notebook, which it could be digital too, because I give out a Google Sheet version, because again, everybody's brain works differently. So I like to teach a process and the tool is up to you. Okay. Which I think a lot of planning systems are like, no, this is the system and this is the tool. And so what we do is, you have this notebook and then it serves as a template for every year going forward. Now your life changes. Like one year your kids might go to camp. So you might need to register your kids for camp, but another year they might not. And so your notebook changes with you, but it's a repeatable process. So you're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't make my kids' physical appointments, because every January you make them. So it serves as a template. So you're not reinventing the wheel. And I think everybody's putting so much work into reinventing the wheel when it's just really simple. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So many things are coming to mind. And so I love the idea of taking that big lens view first, of like backing up and seeing like your year and kind of doing that brain dump of like all the things that you know are coming. And then looking at the seasons and how much, just getting that idea of like, oh, seeing, wow, this season's like really full and really packed. And maybe thinking about how that pacing piece of like, okay, are there things that could be spread out? Could you prepare yourself energetically beforehand so you kind of know you're going into this sprint? But to your point about the urgency, that I feel like we're in such like an urgency culture where everything just feels like, well, yeah, I'm just going to do it immediately and do it right now. And that is such a hard thing on our nervous systems. And like, that's the thing I'm trying to like, I felt like I got really good for a while of internalizing lack of urgency. And now I'm kind of a little bit falling back into that space, but I'm catching it in myself all the time now of like, oh no, I have that autoresponder on my email for a reason. I don't have to do that right now. I don't have to answer the text right now. Like anything that I can, reminding myself of like, it's not urgent and like no one's dying. Like, let's be honest, for most of us, like our lives aren't super high stakes, like, or our jobs aren't super high stakes. Now, of course, showing up for our kids in certain ways, things like that. Yes, there's absolutely some
Mhm.
importance around all of it. But the majority of it is really just not that urgent or important. And so I love, and maybe this is an assumption. You can tell me if it's right or wrong.
Okay.
That distinction between system and workflow, that you're really getting people into a process of thinking and like and the approach of how they're thinking about their tasks and the mental load rather than the tool, as you say, of
Yeah.
like pegging yourself into this one.
Well, a lot of people leave the workshop and they think, "Well, I never thought to think about it that way."
Mm.
So, like in December when it's the holidays, if there's something you don't have to do, like let's say, I don't know, a goal is like organize your closet. Why would you ever do that in December? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like just thinking about it
Absolutely.
that way. And a lot of people also say, and they say this to me when they do the workshop and when they work with me, like I didn't realize how much I had in my head. I can't remember if I said that to you
Yeah.
before, but yeah, it's just like it's challenging.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Gosh, that sounds so eye opening to
Yeah.
go through a process like that.
And it's really it's so simple again,
Mhm.
and then and implementing it is really how it works for your brain. I use a notebook because as you said, like all the urgency. So I will say that I've gotten so much better at not thinking everything is important, but it used to be extremely difficult for me to realize that. And I think that's why I'm able to help people because I know it in myself and I know how much not doing that has helped me. And I am very similar to you. My body is very sensitive. I'm very aware of it. My nervous system gets, I'm very aware of my nervous system and it's just so calming. Because I just don't think these things need, and I'm not saying I'm not stressed out, because of
Oh, yeah.
course I
Mhm.
am. I have more, stressed out moments than other times, but it's such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like it could really support because we're all going to have those seasons, right? Where we're just more stressed or there's more things going on. And to have, though, like a level of support to lean on and to feel like at least we've taken off some of that weight and that load because it's out of our head so that we're better able maybe then to manage those seasons.
Yeah, well,
A little bit sure.
I think that part of it is that we have everything in our heads, and so we get nervous that we're going to lose something. But if you have a reliable place for it, your mind doesn't need to be worried about it because you know you have a place for it. Like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
need to get my holiday gifts. Let's say, what, and it's in your mind. But if you have a plan for it, then you don't have to use all that mental energy and be so exhausted
Mhm.
for that. Like,
Yeah.
use it for, like, your kids who are having a hard time, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And it again, it's simple, it's not easy, and it takes practice. I mean, I've been doing this I think I'm on my 10th notebook or 11th notebook, so,
Yeah.
it takes some practice and
Yeah.
time, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But I can just imagine the relief that comes from not running those lists on repeat. I think that's one of the biggest drains is like when you're just repeating it and, you know, whether there's like worry attached or not, like there's definitely that like rumination piece of like, well, I'm going to forget. So I've got to like keep it on the loop. I love that.
yeah.
Gosh.
Thank you.
So transformative.
Thanks.
So if someone feels constantly behind or disorganized, what's like one small mindset shift or structural shift that they could make to start to feel a little relief here?
I think that you don't need to get it all done today. I think that's like a mindset shift, and a structural shift is, and I know you talk about energy, is maximize your energy. Think about when you have the most energy and do your most difficult tasks during that time. And I don't know why people don't talk about that more.
Yeah.
Because, so for example, planning my social media. Okay. I do it a month at a time. I do it a month in advance. And it is the hardest thing that I do for my job. I have the most energy in the morning. Every single time I've tried to do it at 2 in the afternoon. I'm never successful.
Yeah.
So why not work with your energy and just make things easier? And when I do presentations, that's part of my presentation. And I say, if you leave today with one thing, I want it to be that.
That's perfect.
I think it changes everything,
It really does.
Yeah.
That it's less time management and it's more energy management of like capitalizing on those times and fitting them with what you're feeling.
Yeah.
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 I knew we had so much in common. So tell people where they can find you, what you have going on.
Yeah.
How can they work with you, engage with all of this wonderfulness?
Oh, thank you. Everything's on my website, Ronna at Workflows by Ronna. And the workshop the Notebooks with Ronna workshop that we talked about, I only have one now that's scheduled per year. I used to have them multiple times during the year, but they're the only scheduled one is in January. So it'll be next January, but people can form their own groups if they want, like curated groups of friends and do the workshop. I make it really simple, or you can do it one-on-one or two-on-one, whatever. I've actually also taught it to couples. So yeah, that's been fun. So you can do it in those different ways. But all of my socials, everything's Workflows by Ronna, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And Pinterest now.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that.
yeah,
Oh, that'll
that's
be
new.
great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to check that out. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this. This was enlightening and eye-opening for me. So I know it'll be so great for our listeners too.
Thank you so much
you.
for having me. I love what you do, and I feel like a lot of the things that we do are in alignment. So yeah, it's so fun to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Rising Together, Local Women Leading Differently. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to sign up for my Love Notes newsletter, which is your weekly surge of empowerment and inspiration with a heavy dose of realness from my own journey of rising. You can sign up at emmamulvaney.com/newsletter. Until next time, remember, we all rise higher when we're rising together.